In this speech today, I want to talk to you about a journey from the celestial heights to the depth of a river here in Western Australia. Those celestial heights are the Southern Cross, and that river is the River Swan here in Western Australia. But it's not literally the Southern Cross. It's a newsletter that was from District 73, which covered Victoria, Tasmania, South Australia and Western Australia. Then in July of this year, Western Australia, as is the wont of most West Australians, seceded from the other states and became a district, District 17 in its own right. And the new district had its own newsletter, and it's been christened the Black Swan, after what were thought to be mythical creatures that never existed. And actually the philosopher Karl Popper said that it posed a conundrum, because swans were white. If these were black, were they swans? But they are indeed. But back to the newsletters. Back at the end of 2009, Michelle Moynihan, who was the editor of the Southern Cross, decided that she could no longer carry on, and a request was put out for a new editor. I've previously edited newsletters for Seventide Striders, an athletics club in the UK. I've edited the WA Marathon Club newsletter. I've edited the Carrington Communicators newsletter for Toastmasters as well. So it held no issues for me. I spoke to Michelle and found out that she was using Adobe InDesign to produce a newsletter. It's essential when you're editing a newsletter that you're comfortable with the software. I've used Adobe products before, so it wasn't going to be an issue for me. But it's a bit like when you first try to drive a car. I don't know if you remember back, but the car seems to be driving you. And that was how I felt with InDesign. Much like Photoshop is for people that are working with digital images, it is de rigueur for professionals. But I'm not professional. I'm a very happy amateur. It meant that whilst I was able to produce a newsletter, I was never able to really use the full capacity of InDesign, and at times I struggled. For instance, with page numbering, I knew how it should work, but I ended up having to paste the numbers in every time over the top on each page. Madness. But that was the level of my knowledge and my use of the product. I found it very difficult to put the newsletter together, largely because of formatting. It meant that I had to try to fit whatever stories I had onto the appropriate spaces. As we approached what was to be the new District 17, I envisioned a new way of producing a newsletter. I decided that it would be best to have an e-newsletter. It will go out electronically instead of it being paper-based. Now, you've seen the type of things on the internet with newspapers, indeed, where you get a picture, a headline, a few lead-in sentences, and then you click on a link to get to the story. And this was what I wanted to do. Now, I was fortunate that in my Toastmasters career, I was approaching the time when I needed a high-performance leadership project. This was an ideal one, and so I took it on. I was also fortunate that my guidance committee had some very experienced Toastmasters and gave me some very useful feedback. I decided to use Constant Contact, which was fortunately the software used by Toastmasters for their e-newsletters. It gives you the ability to load up something in the order of about 700 addresses, email addresses, for the newsletter to be mailed out to. Preferably, it would go to a distribution email at each club. So, for instance, my club at Cannington, cannington@freetoasthost.biz. But that's not always the way that it works. Now, the idea is that as a story comes in, I format it in the same format for every single one, same font size, same headline size, pictures in there as well. The bits under the picture, we get italics and bold, and then we have a picture of the author with their designation underneath. Things don't always come in that way, but it's a lot easier than it was using InDesign, I can promise you. I convert those stories into a PDF file currently, but we are experimenting with actually producing them as HTML. Why not? We're going to use the web. Those stories then get loaded up onto the district website. It produces a link. And then on the constant contact page, I've set up a template and I put the stories in there. And as I said before, we get the picture of the author, the headline and the link. And I can make that page as long or as short as I need. And it doesn't matter how long the stories are, because I don't have to fit them into a page anymore. If a story runs over 2.5 pages, so be it. That's how the story appears. There's no trying to squeeze a few bits in here and there or to make it fit a page. It doesn't matter. The joy for me is that as soon as I produce the newsletter and I've got the approval from the district governor, I hit send and off it goes all around the district. Well, that's the theory. My current concern is it's not been passed on by area governors and club committees. That's my next challenge. I need to make the black swan fly.